understands the life that they lead. Thank you.
Well, earlier on today, the Labour leader was being urged to push for a vote of no confidence in the Tories. And a warning, the following images are flashing images if you're watching on TV. Sir Keir Starmer, as leader of the opposition in the House of Commons, is the only MP who can submit a formal vote to trigger an early general election. And that came after the SNP Westminster leader, Ian Blackford, vowed he'll work with other parties to pass a motion of no confidence. Sir Keir said the government should be focusing on the cost of living and not on a leadership race.
I don't think that wasting our time on the return of Boris Johnson or any other candidate is where the public are right now. They're very worried about the bills they're not going to be able to pay this winter. Their mortgages have gone up because of the chaos and the damage that the Tories have done to the economy.
Well, in news away from Westminster, the authorities in Kent today were searching for dozens of migrants who dispersed without trace after landing in Dover by small boats this morning. GBNews understands around 50 people had been detained shortly after arriving on the coastline in 2 small boats. Police and Border Force were still thought to be searching for at least 30 others throughout the day. The 80 people who made it to the beach were among more than 350 who crossed the English Channel today alone. And finally, a yellow weather warning is still in place for thunderstorms to continue across much of England and parts of Wales tonight. The Met Office is warning heavy rain could lead to flooding, with businesses and homes at risk of power cuts and damage from lightning, hail or even strong winds. The alert adds transport could be affected for the rush hour for tomorrow morning, including potential road closures and train cancellations. The warning is in place until 2 a.m. You're up to date on TV, radio and DAB+ radio. This is GB News. Now it's time for Headliners.
Hello and welcome to Headliners. I'm Nick Dixon. Yes, I'm stepping in tonight as the unity candidate we need to bring this team together. And to show I'm serious, I've got 2 people in my cabinet who disagree with me on just about everything. First, the Chancellor of Funny Accents, Diane Spencer, and Secretary for Ofcom Apologies, it's Scott Capurro. So hopefully they can go... It's all right. Apparently that's overplayed and he doesn't really do that. But anyway, hopefully they can go an hour without attempting a coup. We'll find out in a minute after we look at tomorrow's front pages. So you can probably guess what they're going to be about. Let's start with the Mail. And Rishi set for number 10 as Boris bows out. Sunak firmly on course to become new PM after Johnson dramatically steps aside, saying, I had the numbers, but it's simply not the right time. Boris styling it out there, going, I totally could have done it, bro. But I didn't feel like it. So the Telegraph has Sunak set to become PM as Johnson pulls out. Not much chance for Penny, apparently, there. And UK warns Russia against escalating war amid dirty bomb claims. Just to remind us, there are other things happening in the world, not all Tory chaos. The Guardian has not the right time. Johnson out of race to lead the Tories. Withdrawal leaves Sunak as frontrunner in battle for number 10. And former PM struggle for backing while rival won support of 150 MPs. But I'm sure Boris would claim he totally had the numbers. The Times, Sunak set for number 10 as Johnson quits race. You get the idea by now. And they've also got Labour must be bold to succeed, says Mandelson. So Lord Mandelson popping up there with a bit of advice for Mr Starmer, or Sir Keir Starmer. So Daily Express has Rishi, new PM in waiting after Boris quits race. Pretty much the same thing. I think they're all going to go with it, except, of course, the Star. But the Sun has Bojo, it's a no. Boris steps aside to avoid chaos. And they've also got Fury as Netflix films die horror, presumably The Crown there in more trouble. The Metro, a bit more aggressive. Boris has bottled it. Ex-PM claims 102 nominations, then quit. Rishi on brink unless plotters back Penny. I doubt there's any plotting in the Tory party, is there? And the Star, finally, has gone with that they Sphinx it's all over. Fed-up Brits hoping for a cold winter could go to Egypt for a month-long all-inclusive stay. Interestingly, they've gone with Boris's number 2 story, so somewhere on the side there. And those are tomorrow's papers. Let's get into it. So let's kick off with The Guardian. And Boris Johnson is Boris Gonson, Diane. I came up with that myself.
Wow.
Yeah, that's better than any of the headlines. That was me.
Yeah, it was a lovely pun. So Boris has claimed that he got the 102. I love that. It wasn't just 100, it was 102. Yeah, easily sailed over the line.
Coasted it.
But weirdly, we only found 60, Boris. It's almost like Boris has got a history of fibbing about things, which is how he ended up in this situation in the first place.
I'm just hearing we have to apologise for saying that Boris sometimes fibs. That's, I'm joking. It's pretty established. What do you think, Scott? He's gone. The big dog is out.
Well, Boris is pulled out, which is not a statement you hear often enough, I think. It's a relief for some people, actually. And it's strange, too, because I'm not even sure he was running in the first place. He flew home and everybody got excited. He came home early from a vacation, his third in a row, with the family. Oh, I guess he's running. And then he kind of hinted at it. And it turns out he can't anyway because he's under investigation. He might lose the office he's serving in right now, as it turns out.
You're talking about the privileges question, the privileges vote. If it turns out he misled Parliament, then he could be out anyway, which is what Steve Baker was saying.
Which is what this is about. He says it's the wrong time, Boris, but it is the wrong time. It was when he got fired, and it is now, and he's probably never going to be able to run because he's probably going to be found guilty, and that's it, right?
Yeah, but also that was the thing. Like, he clearly flew back early from his holiday because he thought, oh, here we go, boys. This is my moment. I'm going to shine. And he clearly came back because he wanted to do that thing of getting people in a room with him and sort of talking them into submission. He wanted to bully people into submission. That's why he was ringing up the other people, ringing up Penny, ringing up Rishi, saying, there's no way that you're going to win. You might as well just tell me what position you want and I'll give it to you, and you just pull out of the race. And that's what he tried to do, muscle his way in, and it failed.
So he sort of hypnotises people with his charm, gets them in the room. It was interesting with Rishi, wasn't it? He was like, let's have a deal. Then Rishi was like, no. He was like, didn't want one anyway. I'm all right. But so it styled it out. But is it a mistake, though, Scott? Because he had a mandate, not a mandate, that means something different in certain communities. He had a mandate from the people.
Yeah.
And Rishi doesn't. In fact, the members have soundly rejected him in the past.
He's not very popular in his own party. I think it's because of the scandals that have surrounded he and his wife. I think they're anxious about the way he appears to the public. I think that people are worried that Akshata Murthy didn't pay as much tax as she said she would. And I think she's going to have to pay more if he's going to be in office. She's probably not thrilled about any of this because she's pocketing an awful lot of money at the expense of the public. And now she can't at all. That's all over for them. It's probably going to cost him money to serve, really, in office if he wins. You know, he's worth $73 million. He's one of the richest people, if not the richest, in the House of Commons. And that probably won't be... It's going to reduce his income.
Yeah.
You know?
He's at that level where he's got enough money. It's about... what else can I do? What's left? Sort of power, really, is all there is, really, isn't there?
Yeah, I think that both he and Boris have this weird sociopathic idea of themselves. Their behaviour doesn't mean anything. They can do whatever they like. I guess they're from a background, a history where that's been proven. But I just feel like, I think Penny's the only reasonable choice. I mean, she is a relatively fresh face. She's been in Parliament for 12 years, but she's a relatively fresh face to the public, and she's only needs about 50 more, but she might get them now that Boris has dropped out. And I think she's, as far as most people are concerned, kind of without scandal so far.
Yeah, but the problem, she's not totally without scandal, but also Rishi kind of developed, like, he was dishy Rishi initially because he had this, like, whole team behind him. He had a PR, he had the person taking the moody photo shots, which we're now seeing splashed all over the front pages. But then equally, they had that beautiful capacity to go wrong, and he became icky Rishi because, like, he couldn't use contactless. He had no idea how to fill up a car. He's clearly, like, I mean, I'm hoping that we're now going to see loads of these horrendous photos, like where he tries to work out what a postbox does, like, all sorts of things now that he's heading back into that direction.
Yeah.
But Scott's completely right. He's taking a massive, like, pay cut, really. It is going to cost him. Yeah,
he reminded me of that meme you see, hello, fellow kids. He's like, hello, fellow humans. I understand your lives. I have a kid, and I use a contactless.
He still resents giving up his green card, I think. And that was a burden for him. He could have gotten a big job in the U.S. even now. But I think he's handing over some of his freedom, and he expected this job last year when he gave up that green card, and he really wants it now. He really, really wants what he thinks he deserves. It's so strange about these people. They've been groomed their whole lives for this position. As tiny as he is, he thinks he can be the big guy.
Is he really tiny?
Tiny, 5'7", he says on Wikipedia. But we know men lie about their height. He's probably 5'5". I'm almost a foot taller than he is. He and I should be dating, actually, but...
He's sort of miniature, isn't he? He's not just actually small. If you look at him, he exists in a kind of different aspect ratio to everyone else. He's kind of miniature. But I don't think we should hold that against him. Don't want to be height fascist. But do you think he's different enough from Starmer? Because one concern I had was, can he actually win an election? Or at least not win, but not get completely wiped out, which is the new bar for the Tories.
It is.
Can he actually... Because is he really different? If you're going to vote for Rishi, wouldn't you just vote Starmer? They're quite similar in a way.
Well, no, it all depends on whether, in my opinion, it depends on whether he reinstates the teams that were essentially just sacked by Liz Truss. Because what Liz Truss did with her kind of radical, crazy ideas was she went in and she basically fired all of the civil servants with experience. And she went, no, you're the Treasury orthodoxy. Actually, sorry, that's not Liz Truss. You're the Treasury orthodoxy. And then she sort of got rid of them all. So I think that if Rishi brings back in, like, Sir Thomas Scholar, if he brings back in, like, Liam Booth-Smith, all the people that were part of... Yes, they were part of the group that gave us that £400 billion worth of debt, but they do seem to understand the economy, and we're hoping that they will now pull us out of it. But I think that if you vote for Starmer has unfortunately always taken that position of going against the Conservatives and not telling us what he actually would do. We need him to say what he would do. I can't underline that enough.
But the question is the public really ready for a general election? I think people couldn't care less about all that. I think they just want somebody in the office. They want to move on with their lives, especially as the winter is approaching. People are terrified about their mortgages, about their power bills. I think you're right. I think most people think, what's the difference? Just get somebody in the office and start moving the economy towards some sort of progression, so we know what to expect in the next few months.
Yeah, but we want somebody capable.
Well, I mean, obviously Rishi is capable. He has been in the past. I mean, whether you like his policies or not, he can do it. And I think here, you know, it's hard to understand what he's trying to put the country before his party, but I think people want to know what the party is first.
OK.
Yeah.
Well, let's move on to Monday's Telegraph. And like Tom Petty, Penny won't back down. Some younger viewers won't get that with the Tom Petty reference. What do we think? Penny's still in it. Well,
Penny Mordaunt tells Boris Johnson, I won't drop out and back you in the Tory leadership race. Boris, you know, he called her before he pulled out, and he said, look, I want you out of the race because you're going to split the vote. And she's like, get away from me. Or said something probably a bit more vulgar, being an ex-Marine or whatever she is.
I hope she did.
Ex-Navy. I think she told him where to sink his ship, and she was going to move forward. And I think that she thinks, really, that she can do a bit more good for the country because she is a Roman Catholic. She terrifies me, actually. She's got big hands. She's got very large hands. And she's bigger than Rishi. I think she can take him down in a mud wrestle. I think she's feeling like right now, you know, I can save this country. I've saved it on a boat, and I can save it on land, too. It's up to me, right? I can do it.
She actually thinks she can win, or is she going to do a deal? I mean, I feel like doing this show, it's changing so fast. Any minute they could tell me Penny's dropped out. Can she actually make it?
It could be Pennack.
No.
It could be Pennack running the country.
She was too woke last time. What do you think, Dave?
I don't think she's going to make it. She's not going to make it for a couple of reasons. One of them, a criticism that's been levelled at her, is that she doesn't have strong ideas, she doesn't have a strong direction. And something that people have said is that she's willing to admit when she doesn't understand things and when she doesn't know what to do. And although, as a human being, that is a brilliant thing, it's a brilliant factor, but for a leader and a PM, you need to be able to bluff. You need to be able to sit in a room with other leaders who are going to have their own thing going on, and you need to be able to completely bluff them, because that's the only way that you're going to get anything done.
But the two of them should work together, I think.
She can bluff.
But the two of them can, because he's a good bluffer. It could be Rishi and Penn. It could be Pishy. Pishy, our Prime Minister. I like Pishy.
Just have to apologise for Scott's comments.
I'm sorry.
No, I've got no idea.
Pishy would be cute.
It was a new word. You invented it. I think it's fine. I mean, look, some people thought she was too woke. You say she didn't really have any ideas. She did, but they were quite bad. She was against Dad's Army for some strange reason.
Yeah, she was.
Bill Gates wrote the foreword to her book. She seemed a little bit woke. She seemed a little bit...
It's because when she was Equalities Minister, under her leadership, they had these leaked documents that said they were going to make it easier for people to identify as whatever gender they wanted to. That is exactly what you're referring to.
She forgot what a woman was. Or she didn't know what a woman was. It was one of those people.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if she was one of the people like Sir Keir Starmer who wasn't going to confirm what a
She
woman
couldn't
was.
define a woman.
Even though she is one.
Yes, it's hard, I guess. When you're in it, when you're in the mix, it's hard to see out. She also wouldn't comment, she wouldn't be drawn into the pension triple lock, which is very important for a lot of voters in the Conservative Party to know exactly what's going to happen with that.
Yeah, the pension triple lock.
It's complicated now. I mean,
but it turns out it's quite an important policy to guarantee that pensioners will get that. It turns out to be £150 or something, but that it matches inflation, basically.
Well, yeah, but it can't now. Inflation's at 10%. It'll bankrupt the whole country.
But Truss said she would, but we don't know what's happening anymore because she's gone. So
of course.
Is it guaranteed? I haven't followed the latest on that, although I love the pensions triple lock story. I haven't followed the latest. Yeah, I think more. I mean, she's going to do some sort of deal, isn't she? I mean, whatever I say will look silly in about 10 seconds because she's going to change her mind.
It could be 3 different people running for office in 5 days anyway. We have no idea,
yes,
right? Who
indeed.
knows?
I didn't like Penny as a candidate because she was too woke, but they don't always listen to me, Scott. They're not calling me anymore about who should. And this is a big problem, actually. They're ignoring the members. They've ignored the members by going for Rishi, and that's the big problem. It's the country, the members, the party.
Yeah, well, also that Rishi was seen he's seen in 2 different ways. One, as the traitor who stabbed Boris in the back and triggered that wave of resignations, but also he is seen as the person who predicted correctly what would happen to the economy and the market reaction if you follow through with Liz Truss's fairy tale plan.
Yeah.
So Rishi is divisive in that way. But Penny, she was never a favourite of Boris, and Penny backed Jeremy Hunt in the initial leadership race. So then if she becomes Prime Minister and Jeremy Hunt is Chancellor, that just looks weird.
He's backing her now, though.
Yeah.
Yes,
well,
Oh, well, very complicated. Let's move on to Monday's Daily Mail. And Starmer wants the Tories to put the country before the party. Where's the fun in that, Scott?
Keir Starmer calls on Tory rebels to put country before party and support a general election as he claims voters are fed up to the back teeth amid ridiculous, chaotic circus in Conservative Party. He was interviewed this morning. I saw him on the BBC, and he said, look, I've spent maybe 3 minutes worrying about this. I don't spend a lot of time thinking about this. I'm thinking about people's pensions. I'm thinking about people's heating bills. You know that he's spending his whole life thinking about it, but he lied again. That was his first lie of the day. And so he's saying it's not important to him. The weird thing that he would say that is it's important to everyone right now. It should be important to him. I don't know why he keeps saying that. It's a very important issue. He should be focused on it. It's not. It is ridiculous. It is chaotic, and it's making the UK look like a developing nation. My husband's Brazilian, British now, who feels like, which country am I in? It feels like Sao Paulo now. It feels like a Brazilian election. Like there's so much garbage being strewn about in the press and the media. You don't know what to believe. And Keir, I think, I think that he's kind of caught because he's feeling like he's the only sensible choice. And he's feeling a bit like they're going to come to me. This is my job. I'm going to get this now. I know. He said I think he's feeling like so much madness is happening over there that they can only choose me. That that I'm the only eligible candidate.
Yeah, he just has to do nothing ridiculously stupid, and he's fine.
Yeah.
But I understand obviously why he's calling for an election. I felt it would have been fair when they removed Boris to either have an election or keep Boris. I thought removing Boris was a bit of a coup. I still feel that.
Yeah.
But obviously now there's going to be calls for an election because Rishi doesn't have the mandate.
There has to be an election because, I'm sorry, but 35, all it takes is 35 MPs to ditch their support for the government in a Commons confidence vote, and then the entire government has to be replaced. I think that's what the Tories are afraid of happening. That's why they want Boris out. That's why they want Rishi in right now and just to move on really quickly, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, and what Sir Keir... It's interesting, it says he's being urged by other opposition parties to push for a no-confidence vote. So the question does have to be, why hasn't he done it yet? And it makes me feel like even though he believes he is the natural choice, he believes that the nation is being funneled towards him, he still hasn't got the actual, instructions of what he's going to do. I don't think he's actually genuinely ready because he spent so much time saying, oh, the Tories are making a mess of this, instead of sitting down and writing out what he's actually going to do.
Also, you have to be careful calling this a psychodrama, what's going on right now, because if Labour does get in, Labour's been responsible for a few psychodramas in the past, too. Yeah. And if it turns into madness with them, then the same weapons will be hurled in their direction. You're right. He needs to lay out what his policies are very succinctly.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's do Monday's Mirror. And Liz Truss is taking this all pretty well. And by that, I mean she threatened to stab someone in the leg, Diane.
Yeah, so this story in the Mirror, Liz Truss spends final weekend partying at Chequers and says, at least I've been PM.
What have you ever done?
Yeah, exactly. It's such a bad look, and this really just encapsulates her entire 44 days?
She was 44.
Her entire 44
The
days of
longest.
rubbish of what she did, because she's treated it like it was a bucket list. Like, well, at least I did it. Like, no, you didn't do it. We spent 3 weeks of your premiership in national mourning, and then you tanked the economy because you fired anybody with any experience.
Well, she did do something then. She, I like her saying that she's telling her friends at this party at Checkers, "Don't worry, I'm relieved it's over." She's making it sound like it was a diet plan she didn't want to be on, or a vacation that went wrong.
I hope she's okay. Do you think she's like really sad? Or do you think she's just too Teflon that she's just fine?
No, I think that she is not connected to reality. I really do, because she literally she made an experiment of the British economy, and she gambled with the British economy, affecting everybody's lives. And to do that, you have to be slightly unhinged.
But she's going to get 150,000 a year for it. 115,000 a year.
Hopefully
if
not.
she accepts that, yeah.
She's going to take.
And the stab in the leg thing, were you going to mention it?
Yeah.
Otherwise
I was getting there. I was getting there, but the men kept talking over me, and the reason was
Women do go on and on, though, don't they?
She regretted appointing the former Taxpayers Alliance chief executive Matthew Sinclair as her chief economic advisor because he was mansplaining to her, and she said on one occasion that if he kept it up, she would stab him in the leg. Look, you are the Prime Minister. Number one, delegate. Number two, get somebody else to stab him in the leg. Number two, you shouldn't be talking like that. That really shows you what her mental kind of attitude to the whole job was. It's very the thick of it, don't you think?
You do wonder, though, she was expected to say something like that. If she thought, I'm in this job, I need to sound powerful, I'm going to sound like I can, stab someone, like she thought it would butcher her up.
I sympathise with that part, but all right, we haven't got much more time, so let's quickly squeeze one in. The Sun has Fear the Dragon, which is either a new Bruce Lee movie or a terrifying geopolitical warning, Scott.
It's both. China wants Taiwan. They say they want it back. 23 million people living in Taiwan. China and U.S. face worst war in modern history as newly crowned Xi Jinping guaranteed to attack Taiwan. It's going to be another Syria, like what's happening in Ukraine right now. It's two countries fighting over someone else's country. The U.S. has never formally recognized Taiwan as an independent nation, to be fair, although they do consider themselves an ally of Taiwan. And the Taiwanese people are kind of expecting the U.S. and Australia to step in and save them, although China has said, look, we don't care how many casualties we have. We're willing to take huge numbers. We're willing to spend a lot of money on this on the short term, whereas the U.S. isn't willing to do any of those things for Taiwan. No casualties at all. Biden has said that. The problem is that, it goes back to the communist revolution when the country, the government that was in office when the revolution happened was backed by the U.S. They escaped to Taiwan. They made what they thought was an independent nation, independent economy. At least Taiwan has their own currency. They have their own industry, microchip, and they want to remain that way. And the U.S. would like them to stay that way, but can't make any formal statement about it. In fact, most countries won't make a formal statement about the independence that Taiwan deserves.
Right. Well, I wonder if they're capitalising on Biden's weakness, but I would say that. What do you think, Diane? Just briefly.
Well, Xi Jinping has done what a lot of dictators have done in the past. He has got rid of any opposition. He's got a load of yes men now around him. He has been watching the West's response to Putin invading in Ukraine. He now knows what the West will do. He also has been watching the West give a lot of their weapons to Ukraine. So he does know that our stocks are going to be affected by that. And I think it literally is a matter of time. And I think there will be a lot of bloodshed. I think he will go in and he will try and kill everyone in Taiwan if it means he gets his way.
The thing is, Chinese reputation is deteriorating, particularly in the West over the last 4 years. It's decreased a lot, their influence. A lot of people have decided that they prefer, American global power as opposed to China's. And they will support whatever the U.S. does. If China goes in, most of the West has said that they back any attempt the U.S. does to save them.
OK, that's all for part one. Coming up, Russia declares war on Peppa Pig. The EU tries to erase men, and activists want to ban Christmas. See you in 2.
Weekday afternoons on GB News, we've got the whole of the UK covered. From 12 to 3, it's GB News Day with me, Mark Longhurst.
And me, Gloria Di Piero. You'll get the very latest on everything that's been going on across our great nation.
And from 3 till 6, watch out for GB News Live with me, Patrick Christys. I'm not here to mess around. With all the biggest topics and guests, you will always be up to date. GB News Day and GB News Live from 12 p.m.
Only on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello there, it's Eamon Holmes here from Breakfast on GB News. We're not just on your television and your screens, you know.
We're on DAB plus digital radio, so you can listen to your favourite shows on the move.
If you've not yet listened to GB News Radio, it's very simple. We're on your radio player and TuneIn apps, on your smart speaker, phone or tablet, or online at gbnews.uk.
Take us with you wherever you go. GB News Radio.
You never have to miss a moment of the People's Channel.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. You've been cancelled. Join the club.
Oh my goodness me.
And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
Hello, I'm Simon Evans. Join me on GB News for Headliners at 11 p.m, where I'll be joined by two of the country's top comedians as we take a look at tomorrow's newspapers tonight. If it's a big story, we'll be covering it, I guarantee, but we'll also have some fun along the way. That's GB News Headliners at 11 p.m. We won't put you to sleep, unlike some of the other paper review shows out there. So join us, 11 p.m, 7 nights a week.
Welcome back to Headliners. I'm Nick Dixon, still in office with my impeccably diverse team, Diane Spencer and Scott Capurro. He's American, is what I meant by diverse. Monday's Guardian, and a very sad story, of course, here, following the horrific attack on Salman Rushdie, Diane.
Well, you say it's sad. I think it's quite positive that he's not
That he's
dead.
alive, yeah.
So Salman Rushdie has lost sight in one eye and use of one hand, says his agent. So this is an update on the state of the author who was attacked because a lone sort of attacker had taken it upon themselves to complete the fatwa that was issued against Salman Rushdie for writing a book. And, of course, this comes down to, you know, people being attacked for creative endeavours that may challenge or threaten sort of established regimes. And this isn't just particular to Iran and the fatwa issued on Salman Rushdie. Obviously, at the moment, we're in a very interesting position in society where all sorts of sort of everything from comedy to musicals can be attacked. But this was a genuine, serious attack. He had about 15 wounds in his chest and torso, so it was a very frenzied, violent attack. But he is alive, which is good.
Horrible. Do you know what struck me about this article as well, though, Diane and Scott, is that it didn't mention anything about Islamic extremism. I thought, that's strange. It started talking about the fundamentalist right is on the rise. I was like, why are they talking about the right when I thought it's The Guardian? And of course it was. They've managed to avoid the issue. Haven't we become too soft on this? We've become kind of, we don't want to talk about it. Even back in 2007, Shirley Williams on Question Time, back when it was good, was saying, oh, we shouldn't have given Salman Rushdie a knighthood. We're very soft about it because we tiptoe around it. But we should be standing up for free speech and free expression.
Of course, no question. And what I think is odd is in this article, he said two different things. He said that his life had returned to almost normal 2 weeks before the attack when he was interviewed. And then he said that we were prepared for this sort of thing. We knew that this might be coming. So it must be a terrible world for him to live in a way, this constant edge he's on, and then trying to make his life have a bit of normalcy attached to it. But, you know, no, of course, it's fundamentalism, it's extremism, and it has to be discouraged in every way from every government official, everybody.
OK. Well, let's get on to a slightly better story and a bit of good news for once, The Telegraph, and some common sense on the issue of trans children for once, Scott.
Most children who think they're transgender are just going through a phase, says the NHS. Doctors are told to encourage young people to change their names and pronouns. Most children who believe that they're transgender are just going through a phase. Apparently, you know, we all have heard on this network about Tavistock, the gender altering clinic that has been shut because of their misbehavior, because a lot of the advice was being offered by gender specialists, hormone doctors and therapists instead of what they should have been using, which is pediatric doctors and people who specialize in autism and mental health, so that young people were being encouraged to make changes in their lives that were unchangeable once they changed their minds back again, because kids fall in love with their stuffed animal, they fall in love with their neighbor, they fall in love with the dog, they fall in love with the tree. And so that's what the NHS is saying, is you can't encourage kids to kind of lock in on a decision when they're that young. Yeah. So Tavistock is now closed. They're now, the proposal is now to put the service that they offer for gender dysphoria into the hands of different clinics throughout Britain, and to be supervised by, like I said, pediatric medicine physicians and those who specialize in, like I said, in autism and mental health. Apparently, the numbers had gotten too high. The NHS was shocked by the fact that 8.7 per 100,000 people per year in 2021 and 22 had come with referrals to Tavistock, compared with about, half that 2 years before.
Yeah,
so
because it's being encouraged, as they say, even using pronouns and can have a significant effect. And this all comes, this is in relation to the review from Dr. Hilary Cass. And it seems to me it's just a bit of common sense. And the only thing I don't understand is why it's taken so long to get here.
Yeah, and these plans are still going through a consulting phase, and the consultation ends in December. It notes that they want to strongly discourage children from buying hormones from private clinicians. I think please just pause for a minute, because I went through phases when I was a child. I was a tomboy, so I worry that, when I see girls dressing like I dressed when I was younger, sort of running around with black t-shirt on, ponytail, no makeup, climbing trees and the rest of it, that suddenly somebody would go, oh right, well we need to change your gender, and it's like, no, just chill out, grow up. And I like the fact that they're taking a more holistic approach.
The thing is, can I just mention, when you're an LGBT kid, you feel like no one in the world understands you, and you feel like you have to hide away. So when you find a clinic or a doctor, or these people were, like I said, therapists and hormone specialists, who turn to you and say, in what seems to be a completely traditional physical guise in the clinic that the NHS runs, they turn to you and say, I understand, I get it, and we can help you. That's such a relief, especially when your parents don't seem to even understand what you're going through. So I can understand why these kids would get lost in the system. I can see why it would appeal to them, obviously, And it seems even more circumspect if you think of that, how vulnerable children are, how much they're looking for some sort of support or normalization,
OK, well, let's do Monday's Daily Star. And Peppa Pig is turning children gay. I think I must have missed that episode, Diane.
Oh, yes, it's the episode with the swirly lines, and you look at it, it says, be gay, be gay. Yes, so a Russian MP declares war on Peppa Pig propaganda, that's in quotes, claiming it turns children gay. So essentially, there's an episode of Peppa Pig where there is Penny, and Penny is, I believe, a polar bear, and she says, I'm Penny the polar bear, I live with my mummy and my other mummy. There we go. And then she says, one mummy is a doctor, one mummy cooks spaghetti. I love spaghetti, which says to me that she doesn't love the mommy who's a doctor. So there's clearly some kind of family rift there. And I'm sorry for Penny, but you can't get on with your parents all the time. So although some people praised it for its inclusion of gay characters in a very just casual way. Yes, this is Penny, she has two mummies. This Russian MP has said that this is a tool of hybrid warfare. It is attacking traditional values, and it's claiming it's part of the war that the West is waging on Russia. And I can understand that if you're being forced to accept somebody else's ideology down your throat, you would say it's too much. But this seems to... From my perspective, this is blown out of proportion.
Yeah. Isn't it about climate change, though? The whole thing is about climate change, isn't it?
What, Peppa Pig?
Yeah, because polar bears eating spaghetti, it means that their natural source of food has been destroyed, right?
It means they've moved to Italy because they've run out of ice.
Their ice has melted and they can't get fish anymore, so they're stuck with spaghetti. So
I see.
the poor bears and climate change.
The spaghetti mince is made of insects.
Always comes back to climate change.
Always
really.
does.
Let's do the Sun. And the EU are trying to bring in some infuriating and pointless rules. Doesn't sound like them, Scott.
EU, what? Woke EU bosses have banned sexist English words and want Brussels staff to use gender-neutral terms instead. Apparently, there's an 11,000-word European Parliament document, and they're using proper words instead of the wrong ones. And the wrong word would be, quote, a fisherman, or if you were to say Joe Public, which I'm sure they don't say in that, or gentleman's agreement, none of that is used in the document, but they're trying to make a point that now we're meant to say fisher people or fishers. Fishers sounds dirty, and I think fisher people sounds awful. So anyway, it's one Tory MP, Nigel Mill, said this is utter madness. It's an attack on the English language. The word fisher is vile, but you know, words change all the time.
It's also wrong. It's also wrong because at one point it says, right, that they say banned no man's land, right? But they've replaced it with unclaimed territory. No. That's not no man's land. No man's land is where you can't go because you're going to be shot in the head.
Right.
So that would be more like Croydon. You can't call it no man's land.
Yeah, unclaimed territory sounded more like the Germans were about to invade again. I always worry about with the EU when they start talking about unclaimed territory.
They use fishers 84 times in this new document too, and I think people are confused. Like, I don't know what that is. Can you explain that to me? It's going to be new words in the dictionary, I guess. That's what we need, right?
Absolute.
A woke dictionary, which is, I guess, every dictionary now.
Absolute madness. It was worth leaving just for this. That's all for part two, but no flipping, because after the break, we'll be looking at an interesting new way to play the keyboard, Liz Truss's potential OnlyFans page, and we'll be asking, can women drive? I don't pick the stories. See you in 2 guys.
Weekday afternoons on GB News, we've got the whole of the UK covered. From 12 to 3, it's GB News Day with me, Mark Longhurst.
And me, Gloria Di Piero. You'll get the very latest on everything that's been going on across our great nation.
And from 3 till 6, watch out for GB News Live with me, Patrick Christie. I'm not here to mess around. With all the biggest topics and guests, you will always be up to date. GB News Day and GB News Live from 12 p.m.
Only on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello there, it's Eamon Holmes here from Breakfast on GB News. We're not just on your television and your screens, you know.
We're on DAB plus digital radio, so you can listen to your favourite shows on the move.
If you've not yet listened to GB News Radio, it's very simple. We're on your radio player and TuneIn apps, on your smart speaker, phone or tablet, or online at gbnews.uk.
Take us with you wherever you go. GB News Radio.
You never have to miss a moment of the People's Channel.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch.
You've been cancelled. Join the club.
Oh my goodness me. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
Hello, I'm Simon Evans. Join me on GB News for Headliners at 11 p.m, where I'll be joined by 2 of the country's top comedians as we take a look at tomorrow's newspapers tonight. If it's a big story, we'll be covering it, I guarantee, but we'll also have some fun along the way. That's GB News Headliners at 11 p.m. We won't put you to sleep, unlike some of the other paper review shows out there. So join us, 11 p.m, 7 nights a week.
Welcome back to Headliners. I'm Nick Dixon, and I'm still here. If minutes were days, I've lasted almost as long as Liz Truss. I'm a fighter, not a quitter, guys. And I'm here with the equally stoic Diane Spencer and Scott Capurro. So let's kick off with Monday's Daily Mail, and a story many of us have already seen on Twitter. In fact, we saw it all, and sadly, I can't wash my eyes, Scott.
I also like that you're vulnerable as well as powerful.
Thank you.
You've exposed your little neck area. Very vulnerable, not wearing a tie on TV.
Okay.
Brave of you. Channel 4 faces furious backlash after transgender comedian stripped naked live on air and played keyboard with her penis. I never thought I'd say her penis on TV, but there you go.
I'm clutching my pearls.
I know, I'm clutching her. Channel 4 has, they're in trouble now because they brought back this TV show, which had been off for a while, which was very famous, I guess, in the past. Channel 4 wants to be on top. And now they are. They brought back. You guys, did you grow up on the show, or usually Saturday Live? And now they're calling it. Was this a thing?
Well, I'm slightly older than Channel 4, so I can understand. Maybe it's going through some kind of midlife crisis.
Well, they're trying to bring us
to put naked people on.
Well, the appearance of singer Jordan Gray, who's also a comedian and did very well in Edinburgh this year, was an expletive-filled bit about her experience as a trans woman, and she performed this controversial stunt with the piano board and her penis. And so there's been a lot of complaints on Ofcom. Some of the comedians attached to the program were not confident. They weren't sure that this is what they wanted to be involved with. And also, Ofcom has said, we've got to look at it. We've got to examine this. We're now nervous. You know, I've seen the performance. I've seen Jordan. She's brilliant, and it's very funny. And she was dancing and singing and seemed so happy. I watched it. She said things like, the best thing about live TV is I could do stupid stuff like this, and it's true.
Well, I radically disagree, but let's get Diane's opinion first.
I didn't like it. Because I'm just on my Twitter feed, and I just see the clip. And I see this woman playing the piano, and I'm sort of just looking at it, and she's having a great time. And I'm like, oh, what's wrong with this? And then suddenly she leapt to the side, she pulled off all her clothes. And I'll be honest with you, I didn't actually see her penis. I just saw this naked person, and I was like, why are you naked? Don't stop. You can be funny and you can be witty without this. And it genuinely shocked me, and I don't think I'm much of a prude, but I didn't enjoy that.
Right, should it be on mainstream TV is one question. Right. Another concern I have is it came out that this person works with 7-year-old children and educates them, and I have some questions about that. And my other thing is Jordan Gray said, I woke up this morning to the smell of burning gammon. Now, gammon's sort of a racist term for someone's skin colour, so I wasn't thrilled about that either. And I think, although you might have liked it, Scott, I think a lot of people in the country might be going, what was this? Why was it on TV? Also, these sort of gender-critical people, Helen Joyce came out and said a sex crime committed on camera while idiots whoop and cheer, and said it was misogynist. Was it misogynist?
I think people... Well, to me, the song was part of Jordan's action, which I've seen before, and I didn't find it misogynist. Although I know that some of my female friends on Twitter did find it misogynist. I think it's a matter of choice. I think Friday Night Live, one of the kind of press we're providing them right now. I think Channel 4 is testing the show to see if they should bring it back as a series. I think it was a big risk of theirs to take. And I think, again, Jordan did very well at the Edinburgh Fringe, and I'm not quite sure why her doing this is any different from what the comedian that we all support, whose show was cancelled at the Edinburgh Fringe, for getting his members out.
Well, that's interesting. It's Jerry Sadowitz, but Jerry Sadowitz has been cancelled, whereas everyone's supposed to celebrate this and say it's beautiful.
But what we're doing right now is, as far as these people complaining are concerned, they'd like to see it cancelled, wouldn't they? That's why we're doing the story in the first place.
Well, everyone's going to have an opinion on that. Let's go to the Mail, and this story is about patronising sexism in the workplace, so I should probably handle it to make sure it's done right. Just kidding, Diane.
No, you're not, Nick.
People at home laughed. I felt it.
Oh, God. Ofcom offended.
So the title is Why High-Flying Male Lawyer's LinkedIn Post About His Female CEO Vacuuming the Office and Emptying the Dishwasher Has Enraged Working Mums. And then they put a quote, far out, do better. So essentially, there is the CEO, Miss Phelps, of this prestigious law firm, and one of the people who works there...
Trent Johnson, senior lawyer.
There we go, senior lawyer, photographed her vacuuming the office. And he wrote this kind of...
We see... Rambling email, yeah.
And he's basically saying that he believes the true leaders set the best example. Now, this is actually quite a nuanced story, and the point is that she's just doing things around the office to make it look clean. They do have cleaners, but maybe something was missed, and she just wants to make the office look nice. And it's purely because she's a woman. This was blown out of proportion, because some people have reacted in one way, saying, oh, that's great, you've got a boss who genuinely doesn't mind rolling up their sleeves, that worked from the ground up, willing to do any job. And I get that, and I appreciate that. I like somebody who understands everything and is willing to muck in. But then you had other people saying, this is just setting women back. You're just showing a female CEO, and she's got to raise kids, and she's got to vacuum the office. But equally, then Miss Phelps herself said, wait a minute,
he just wrote this thing saying that I was a really good leader, and also he was taking the bins out. He was doing the dishes as well. So everybody sort of basically, they have really bad cleaners at this law firm, and their lawyers, they should probably sue the cleaning company because they're having to do it all themselves. That's what I got from it.
Isn't it about everybody pitching in? That's what the brand manager said of the firm. She said, you know, somebody waters plants, Travis, I think, waters plants, or Travis takes out the rubbish, Trent, it's just people kind of helping out. She gets there early in the mornings before the phones start because she wants the place to look nice, and she thinks, I'll just hoover a bit. I just think it's been, I think it's been a bit reactionary, people's response.
Well, let's do a related story. Monday's Guardian, and who said women can't hack it in the army? Me during the break. But it turns out I was wrong, Scott.
You were. The first female soldier passes a grueling UK parachute regiment resilience test. Her name is Addie Carter. She's 21. We had a gorgeous photo for her I wish we could show. She presented with the coveted maroon beret after completing a test of endurance. She successfully completed a 3.5-week parachute entry test.
Let me just summarise this. She's joined the paras. That is what she's done.
Amazing, yeah.
And that is so hard to do.
It is. And she failed the first attempt because she hurt her foot. That healed and she went back to it. And she succeeded the second time. That's amazing, too, with an injury. She said, I never had a moment's doubt that I wouldn't try again. Of 98 candidates in her class, 59 were successful. And her next stage is to get her wings as a trained military parachutist with RAF Bryce Norton.
Yeah. A friend of mine joined the paras when we were teenagers, and I remember him ringing me up from training, and he was just absolutely broken. And he was telling me about how they sort of start jogs at, they get no sleep, they have to start jogging at like 5 o'clock in the morning wearing this massive heavy rucksack, which is like the same weight as a person, and every single jog they start is uphill. And I'm just like, okay, like on the other end of the phone thinking, I'm going to do drama at Loughborough. And I'm like, you can do it, but it
sounds hot
it's
to
so
me. I think
intense.
it's very sexy, I think.
You made the right choice. Let's do Monday's Guardian. And is music cancelled, Diane?
Oh, yes. So this is interesting. So a lot of concerts are being cancelled. The headline is, rocketing costs and drop in ticket sales force musicians to pull tour dates. And they've listed quite a selection. There are cancellations from acts Santa Gold, Demi Lovato, Little Sims, big names like Justin Bieber. Some people cite mental health issues, which I don't think they should do unless it's genuine, because then you're detracting from that. But a lot of it is that everything has gone up. So the fuel costs, for example, when you go on tour, you need those big trucks to carry everything around. The fuel costs have gone up. The cost of hiring vans and trucks have gone up. Everything's gone up. So now the cost of staging a music event is huge. And also, there's the whole thing of things being online, because you can be immensely successful online, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to translate into people getting up and seeing you in real life.
Yeah, so CD sales famously obviously fell apart, and albums and all that. So then musicians struggled to make money, but they could tour, and that was how they could make their money.
Right.
Now that's gone as well.
It says here, 1 million streams on Spotify does not necessarily mean that you're going to sell tickets. And I find this story a great relief as a live performer, I have to say, because I've been touring in the US and here a little bit, and we've really been struggling with ticket sales, and we couldn't predict why or understand why it was going on because I'm so brilliant. But now everyone's kind of suffering, so I like suffering together in a way.
Yeah, the world's against you, the macro economy. All right, let's do Monday's Express, and it turns out Harry and Meghan are not the happy-go-lucky people we all thought, Scott.
Well, they're thinking of having another kid because they're Ronery.
Oh,
they want to have another one. But that's what Kinsey Schofield thinks. She's a royal... She or he.
Kinsey Schofield, she's on GB.
Oh, right. Well, she's a royal commentator, and she says that the pair trust very few people, and they want to increase their inner circle by having more babies. But she thinks maybe they won't, because Harry promised that he wouldn't have another one, because having the children he does have reminded him what a disaster the environment is. So having another one would be so selfish.
Isn't that tragic? They need to have another kid to have a friend, but they can't have it because of the environment. The whole thing is tragic.
It's a real conflict.
Well, what's wrong with Archie and Lilibet? Why are they not friendly? Are they not friendly enough?
They're not doing the heavy lifting. I think Meghan, too, would like someone to talk to. And Harry's always busy, off doing his stuff, whatever he does. He seems always out of the house to me when I see them interviewed. It's like, where is he? He's away.
He's writing books about how his family are horrible, then trying to attack them.
Yeah.
He technically has a job.
What does he do?
Which she doesn't. He is Chief Impact Officer at the startup Better.
So he doesn't have a job. He doesn't really have a job. He doesn't have a job. That's no job.
Impressive. You learned that. You've learned his made-up job.
Yeah.
Let's do.
There's no job there. I know what you're talking about. Making it stuff.
Yeah. Let's do the Daily Mail. Australia have found another new way to be a nanny state, Diane.
Yes. So Australia has banned all single-use plastics, including containers, bags, cutlery, and straws. Obviously, this is to do with the environment. But my question is a condom a single-use plastic?
Because depends if you're lucky.
Well, will that not
really
lead
depends.
to a
What
population?
the party? What happens at the party? How many cots there are? How many guests? It's a long story. Walthamstow. I won't go into it, but I'm glad it can recycle. That's
So the New South Wales government estimates the ban will reduce litter by 2.7 billion items. And obviously they're worried about microplastics and the idea that this could get into the environment. But there are other people saying that this kind of worry has been blown out of proportion. But considering plastic does take a long time to wear down, I understand it. So maybe the rest of other countries are going to follow suit.
OK. Well, let's move on. Unless you've got something massive on that, Scott.
No, I'm worried about the dolphins. That's all. Aren't we all?
Yes, we're always worried about the dolphins. Let's do Monday's Mirror. And apparently some people just don't deserve the internet, Scott.
Man cuts off neighbor's internet thinking they're immigrants and don't deserve it. His name is Shannon Pearson, and I wish we had a photo of him because he's so angry and lonely and bloated and pink. He drinks way too much. He's 48 from Wisconsin.
Is he even lonelier than Harry?
Maybe. Maybe he needs a kid. Maybe they should adopt these people. No. He's been charged with a hate crime after telling a broadband installer his neighbors upstairs were in the country legally. And they don't deserve the internet. My father didn't love me. So anyway, he's going to jail. He's, I don't know if the guy's even necessarily racist. I think he just wanted some attention. So he pulled the worker aside that was installing these people's internet. He said, don't do it. And he kind of freaked the guy out by telling this guy installing the internet that these people are here illegally, which they weren't. They're here illegally. You're going to go to prison for doing that. And so in the end, he tried to apologize, but they wouldn't have it. And they kind of pushed him when he approached their door. He kind of fell down the stairs and then got arrested. And now he's going to jail.
Yeah, but isn't this like a tiny little symptom of a slightly bigger problem? Isn't this part of that whole sort of internal rhetoric, right? If you're constantly having sort of messages beamed into your head from the news saying, oh, it's the outsiders, that legal immigrants, bring back Trump and the rest of it, it's getting into people's heads, and then people are taking action like this and where they're going and attacking their neighbours and saying weird things like, you don't deserve the internet. This is insane.
But do any of us really deserve the internet? It really gives us way too much information. Like you said, if he didn't have the internet, the crazy messages wouldn't be there. Maybe none of us should have it.
Well, Jeremy Corbyn said it was a human right. But anyway, let's do another story in the Mirror. And I've always said women are excellent drivers, but turns out that's factually wrong, Diane.
You are such a
It's in the story. I said they were good drivers. The story says
Nick,
a woman
we're going to have
failed
a chat after this. So the title is Woman Drives 500 Miles and I Would Drive 500 to take the easiest driving test in the UK but failed.
That was the B-side.
So bless her, what happened was she's clearly terrible at driving. That does not mean, Nick, and this is the chat we need to have, just because one woman's done it, it doesn't mean that all women are bad drivers. I know it's a crazy concept.
What if it was a joke on a light-hearted comedy?
No, but...
no, it's not funny. Not funny.
No, but I know, Nick.
11 years? Would that be possible?
No, Nick. It's not when it comes from you.
Oh, right. It's from you.
Profiling.
There's a difference.
It's your fault that women can't drive.
Tell us about Andrew Tate and how much you love him.
That's a different show. Go on, Scott.
Well, my driving test was a nightmare. I guess young gay teenagers are in the closet with braces and headgear. They can't drive either. Because I was checking either way, and I drove into a train, and the guy threw his papers up in the car, and we got back. My mom was like, this from the DMV. I'm like, nah. And she's so supportive. And the guy said, you really scared me back there. I'm like, you're homophobic. And he passed me. So it really works in your favor sometimes.
Yeah, no, essentially this woman just moved to a different place where there were less roundabouts because she didn't like them. But she also drives in the middle of the road. She sounds terrifying, and I'm glad she failed.
I wish she'd pick a side, really. We're at war. Pick a team, seriously.
OK, well, it seems like we've exhausted that story. Let's do the Daily Star.
All right.
And a new side hustle for Liz Truss, Scott.
Liz Truss should launch OnlyFans page after getting boot from number 10, says sex doll firm. Exclusive! That's a job that she's actually suited for. is apparently this sex doll company that crafts bespoke dolls thinks that the politician would be a hit. I guess they would make a doll in her image?
Yeah, no, they said they would make an angel with her head as the head.
She does have quite, I gotta say, she's got quite a nice figure. When she came out to make her failing statement where she was quitting after she promised she wouldn't, I thought, that's a nice tight dress on the top. She's distracting my attention, and I'm not usually distracted by that.
How do you feel about Penny Mordaunt versus Liz Truss?
I like her hair. I like how she moves her hair.
Guys.
But I think, no. I think Truss is, as a blow-up doll, Truss is more affordable.
What do you think to this OnlyFans story? I mean, OnlyFans always strikes me as a Faustian bargain. You can go on there, you can make some money, but then when people find out you're on it, are they going to see you in the same way again? Am I a dinosaur, Diane?
No, I think we definitely agree on this. You have to remember, whatever you put on the internet goes on the internet forever, and you can sort of say, oh, well, I was young and I wasn't that good at things and the rest of it. But here, Liz Truss going on OnlyFans, I mean, she's not going to be very good at the speaking circuit because she's not very good at speaking.
Well, he says something funny. He says, I know that she's older, but she's like Judi Dench, and she'll get that kind of, fan base. That kind of thing that Judi Dench gets. That kind of thing. Judi Dench is a national icon and a fabulous actress. She's going to get the same fan base as Liz. I failed, I didn't mean to, but look at these. Truss? Seriously? Is that what she's going to get? Is that what it's come to? All women are the same as Liz Truss and Judi? What?
I feel a bit bad for Liz Truss. I mean, I don't think she's going to have to go this far. What is she going to do? She might take that 115K. She could do speaking like Boris.
Can she? Talk about potatoes. She's terrible. Yeah.
OK. Well, good luck to Liz Truss. That's all for tonight. Thanks to my excellent front bench, Diane Spencer and Scott Capurro. I'll be back tomorrow, but only in the panel. I said I was a fighter, not a quitter, but it's changed. The situation's changed, guys. We'll see you then, 11 p.m. Good night and God bless. Thank you very much.
Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Weekday afternoons on GB News, we've got the whole of the UK covered. From 12 to 3, it's GB News Day with me, Mark Longhurst.
And me, Gloria Di Piero. You'll get the very latest on everything that's been going on across our great nation.
And from 3 till 6, watch out for GB News Live with me, Patrick Christie. I'm not here to mess around. With all the biggest topics and guests, you will always be up to date. GB News Day and GB News Live from 12 p.m.
Only on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello there, it's Eamon Holmes here from Breakfast on GB News. We're not just on your television and your screens,
We're on DAB plus digital radio, so you can listen to your favourite shows on the move.
If you've not yet listened to GB News Radio, it's very simple. We're on your radio player and TuneIn apps, on your smart speaker, phone or tablet, or online at gbnews.uk.
Take us with you wherever you go. GB News Radio.
You never have to miss a moment of the People's Channel.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch.
You've been cancelled. Join the club.
Oh my goodness me. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
Hello, I'm Simon Evans. Join me on GB News for Headliners at 11 p.m, where I'll be joined by two of the country's top comedians as we take a look at tomorrow's newspapers tonight. If it's a big story, we'll be covering it, I guarantee, but we'll also have some fun along the way. That's GB News Headliners at 11 p.m. We won't put you to sleep, unlike some of the other paper review shows out there. So join us, 11 p.m, 7 nights a week.
Britain is poised for its third Prime Minister in about 4 minutes, while theatres are getting more content warnings than ice cream tubs. Strap yourselves in. This is Free Speech Nation. Britain has a culture of, if it's funny, say it. It's why we're so good at comedy, or we have been in the past. The first comedian I saw epitomised this. On our annual trip out of the Scottish hills and into the big city, my mum took me and my brother to see Scottish comedian Jerry Sadowitz. We loved it. Here was a man who said everything we'd been told was wrong to say, who tore into every icon, who exposed his penis without even offering us sweets first. His jokes were hilarious and criminally offensive. He had total disdain for the audience. As he spat abuse at them, the first few rows got soaked in his saliva, which left his hair hanging like wet spaniel's ears. Then he pulled out a super soaker they'd been spitting into all week and sprayed the rest of the room. We begged our mum to take us every year and to get us vaccinated against the hepatitis he probably carried. What's happened to comedy? I'm sure people used to go to comedy clubs for the thrill of transgression, of being offended by material that's outside the social norms. Now, people go to get offended and then destroy the comedian's career by complaining. Jerry Sadowitz had his Edinburgh Fringe run cancelled this year after audiences and venue staff complained about the content in his show and about him exposing his penis. But Sadowitz has been exposing himself on stage for 40 years. He always does it. Sadowitz not getting his penis out would be like going to see ABBA and them not playing Dancing Queen. Sadowitz's bilious torrent of racism, misogyny and homophobia might sound hateful and unfunny. At one show, I remember him raping a blow-up doll while calling Nelson Mandela a C-word. Until you actually see it, it speaks to his alchemical brilliance as an artist that he can make such appalling behaviour hilarious. There's something so self-loathing and bileful about his persona. He's so pitiable that everywhere he punches is up. He says out loud the horrific things we all push down to the back of our minds and makes us see how absurd these thoughts really are. You really have to see it. As E.B. White said, explaining a joke is like dissecting a frog. You might understand it better, but it dies. And Sadowitz's act is clearly an act. Why, in 2022, do people take everything that comedians say at absolute, literal face value? There's no space given to context or nuance or hyperbole or irony or the idea that comedians take a thread of truth or a persona and twist it until it's absurd. Or even sometimes, just sometimes, comedians might be joking. Could that sometimes be the case? Do the cancellors even understand that they're watching a stage performance? Or when they watch a magician cutting his assistant in half, do they report him to the police for murder? This week, Jerry revealed that the Scottish comedy chain The Stand also cancelled him after claims that he bullied staff, made a female technician cry, and asked to work with a male technician who, to be fair, might be a bit less likely to cry. I have to defend him. Great artists are rarely easy to work with. Look at Picasso or Charles Bukowski. If we only allowed art made by polite people, our galleries would be very dull. And it doesn't sound that bad anyway. Adults complaining about bullying? I mean, get a grip, princess. Listen, bully is a word that losers use to describe people who are stronger than them. And The Stand have happily employed people who've been placed on the sex offenders register, which is a bit worse than bullying. Are they even telling the truth? The Stand have lied about reasons for cancelling comedians before. For example, they said they don't book me because I'm not funny enough. Not funny enough? I can see your lineups. If anything, I'm too funny. It's pretty obvious I'm blacklisted for my political opinions. And this is where it gets more sinister. The Stand comedy comedy clubs are owned by Tommy Shepherd, a member of Parliament for the Scottish Nationalist Party, the authoritarian political party who runs Scotland into the ground most of the time. Tommy might look like a chuckle brother, but he doesn't want you laughing at his political party. By controlling comedy stages, the Scottish National Party ensure that no Scottish comedians can criticise them without jeopardising their career. Like most aspects of the SNP government, it's like something out of North Korea. It's not the only way the SNP are restricting what can be joked about. Their hate crime bill criminalises stage performances and jokes told in the sanctum of your own home. It was cited by the Pleasance Theatre as a reason they pulled Sadowitz's Fringe show in the first place. An SNP politician even said that people who laugh at offensive jokes should be prosecuted. I mean, what's happening to British comedy? Comedians are forced to sign behaviour agreement forms, gigs have wardens to ensure nothing said on stage is offensive, comedians are prosecuted under obscenity laws. My own tour has been cancelled after people complained that I'm some sort of far-right demagogue. Claims that we should take seriously because, as we all know, the Third Reich was a comedy tour that got out of hand. It's a shame. I was really looking forward to the Poland dates. But this censorious environment is throttling comedy. Comedians I speak to are toning down their acts in case they offend an audience member, or worse, one of the self-appointed blue-haired milk monitors working in the venues. The country that gave us Jimmy Carr, Billy Connolly, Ricky Gervais and Frankie Boyle is producing a generation of play-it-safe comedians who strictly keep to the approved woke opinions instead of questioning the orthodoxy. But nobody wants to go and see woke comedy. It's sort of like women's football. It gets written about a lot in The Guardian, but it's rubbish. There's no need to censor comedians anyway. We perform in front of a jury, the audience, who are regular people from across society. If we say anything that's genuinely unacceptable, they won't accept it and won't buy tickets. As Sadowitz himself says, it's just a comedy act with magic. It's not for everyone. And I've never